What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Schreckbein, joined always by my main man, Jacob Punturi. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Happy 4th of July to everybody out there. Thank you to all of our current active duty and veterans. Obviously, can't thank you guys enough for what you do and the freedom that you give us. It's a good day to celebrate. Red, white, and blue everywhere. Although I'm not going to lie to you, I owned one 4th of July t-shirt in my entire life as an adult. And it said Ben Drankin instead of Ben Franklin, with Ben Franklin and some American black sunglasses. Besides that, I've never, and at some point I hit a point in life where I said, I can't show up to my in-laws with small children with a Ben Drinking shirt on. So it's tucked away in the closet forever. And until then, I don't know if I'll ever be able to replace it. You know, how are you feeling, my friend? Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th, man. I am feeling good. I'd be remiss if I didn't echo the same sentiments. I mean, it's just what a privilege, blessing, whatever word you want to put on it, to be able to just chat sports with you and just to be able to do all this without the freedom and without the fear of anything else kind of hanging over our heads, and the freedom to speak. So, shout out to all of the people who have made that happen and who continue to protect that. I am very thankful for it every day. I'm feeling good nonetheless. I'm shocked you've only had one Ben Drinking shirt for America. You never had the Old Navy, USA red, white, and blue shirts. I mean, that's why that's why I got the purple sweatshirt on today for the red and blue mixture, doing my best.
I like that. Yeah. I live in a blue house, you know what I mean?
Ooh,
so
yes.
It's close enough. I did have, when I was young, my mom loved to get me like the Old Navy USA stuff with like the cup pong, like the pong cups on it.
Yes.
And I'm like, I'm 14, but I hear it. And I blame my mom. For any bad possible outcome I ever had in my life, started with the Old Navy shirts.
Certainly a direct line between the Old Navy pong cup and the Ben Drinking
that's
t-shirt
what I'm saying.
there. So,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, shout out mom for setting the tone early. We love it. That's America if I've ever heard it.
That's America. Shout out to Mama Jen, dude. Hope she's doing well. She's definitely watching for sure. And she's 100% pissed that I made that reference here at 9:05 Eastern time. I want to give one quick update on the Shart giveaway from the Chubbies. It's a medium. Remember that if you are applying for it. Realized last night after we made the post that you can't post pictures in YouTube comments, which is ridiculous. You should be able to do that. Of all the comment sections, to not be able to post meme pictures, I mean, YouTube just feels like the one that it should always be allowed. To fix it, we created a Facebook post. We created a Twitter post. You can go to either one of those. They are in the YouTube post. I have the links for both in there. Just drop your screenshots in either of those, and we'll pick a winner. We'll pick two winners. We'll draw them, and then we'll pick a name out of a hat between the two. Whoever wins gets the shirt. Whoever doesn't win of those two will just get an AST t-shirt. We'll make sure that we'll send it your way. So shout out to you guys. Appreciate you. And I apologize. It took me until about 10 o'clock last night. I said, how many people have tossed it in there? And it was like 10 people being like, yo, dude, can't do this. And I was like, good thing I checked. Good thing. It's all right. It's always fixable. Always fixable. Let's talk some Pittsburgh Steelers football. It's the 4th of July. It's early. A wild time for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Things are crazy right now. Craziness that we did not see happening. And there are two big questions that come with this. One, have expectations changed with a very new looking roster heading into training camp and the beginning of July? And two, what comes next? Because the Pittsburgh Steelers have been full of surprises. Those surprises are not stopping. I have a hard time believing that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to sit around for the rest of the summer and say, you want to know what we're going to do? Nothing. That sounds a lot like the old Pittsburgh Steelers. The old Pittsburgh Steelers are gone, my friend. This is not the Steelers of your grandparents it's not the Steelers of 14-year-old Noah wearing Pong shirts from Old Navy. This is a new Pittsburgh Steelers regime here. So we'll start with the first question. You look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. TJ Watt's still unsigned, but the expectation is he'll be here. Omar Khan gets a new contract extension. Jalen Ramsey's on board. Jonnu Smith is here. DK Metcalf is here. Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback. George Pickens is gone. Jalen Warren, Caleb Johnson, they're the runners. There's a new look in defense for sure. Juan Thornhill might be the starter, but we'll dive into all these things and more. Have your expectations, has your outlook on this season, on where the Pittsburgh Steelers might end up at the end of all this, changed at all with a ton of turnover in the last 2 months, but the last 3.5 months?
Yes. Yes, it is drastically changed the expectations and outlook that I have on the Pittsburgh Steelers season. I think before all of this craziness started, all of the changes, the roster overhaul began, I saw this as just basically a replica season of the last few years. We were going to finish, 9-8 or some variation of just having a winning season, sneaking into the postseason, losing wild card weekend, and everyone coming back here next summer scratching their heads being like, why do they keep doing this?
Yes.
Now I think that my expectations have changed to completely boom or bust. I think that this team is either going to,
I like that.
the expectation has to be at least the AFC Championship game, or this is like a 5-win team again, because this either has to go so spectacularly well or has to fail in such a similarly spectacular fashion, based off of how crazy not your grandpa's, not your grandparents' Steelers offseason this has been. So I think that my expectations have changed drastically. I'm expecting them to either make a legitimate run in the postseason, or I am expecting this to just blow up in their faces so awfully that this becomes a miserable season that forces the Steelers to totally readjust and make some serious changes. So yeah, expectations have drastically shifted from middling to big things ahead.
Is it worse or better to be a team to have the expectations of boom or bust compared to a playoff team? Maybe there's a shot, but you're not real into the shot. You're not really feeling like this team could go on a run.
I think, from a fan's perspective, I would say it's probably more fun of a ride to think that this team has Super Bowl potential, but in the back of your head, this could go really terribly wrong. I think that is probably more fun than the limbo or like the purgatory, or the sort of like stuck feeling that just being an average borderline playoff team brings for a few years.
Yes.
So I think that it is better. I don't think it's worse. Yes, it could go worse if this all goes terribly wrong, and if nothing goes according to plan, then you're like, okay, yeah, but I think you have to accept the potential and accept the possibility of that happening, because there has just been such a dramatic change for the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into the 2025 season. But personally, and from a fan's perspective, I think it is better because for the first time in several years, believe that this team can make a longer run in the postseason. So yeah, I'll take that over just being like, well, we'll sneak into the playoffs again, lose to whoever we go to in that wild card weekend, and then just keep doing the same thing again in 2026. So yeah, I think it's better.
I like that. I agree with you. I do think it's better. I think boom or bust gives you at least the possibility of boom. And the Steelers haven't had boom in quite some time. It's been a while since you've looked at the Pittsburgh Steelers roster and said, there are, in years past, it was Kenny Pickett's here. Maybe the Super Bowl window's open. Maybe the Steelers have enough. But like you looked at it and said, Kenny Pickett's got to be incredible. The offensive line's got to be way better than they've been, and they weren't. There are holes on defense. I don't know how I feel about the holes on defense, but you somewhat made excuses for how things were going to go. Russ shows up, and you go, Russell Wilson, man. I mean, this guy's done it before. Maybe it's great, but you kind of looked at it and said, nah, it hasn't been great in a while. And a while as in like 5+ years since Russ has been like the guy anywhere. Aaron shows up and you're going, all right, it's Aaron Rodgers. That's interesting. That's exciting. But you also at the back of your head going, Aaron's not winning you a Super Bowl. Aaron isn't the guy that's coming in here to be the savior of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's just coming in here to be a good quarterback, which I think in the grand scheme of things is what the Steelers need right now. But it wasn't enough to, you had to either lie to yourself again, because again, it's been 5+ years of lying of just like, but Ben's here and there's a great defense. Yeah, but Trey Turner and Kendrick Green and Kevin Dotson are leading the way in the offensive line, and Ben's going to get killed. And you could try to ignore it all you want, but you can't. With Aaron, you're lying to yourself if you're saying Aaron's going to be the reason that the Steelers win a Super Bowl. But you might not be lying to yourself if you say the defense is better, the receiving game has a big name, and hopefully Roman Wilson's good, and you have at least Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth to look at and say, it's not a superstar group of receiving options, but it's definitely an upgrade from last season. The running game's better. The offensive line is finally put together. The coaching staff is, because again, you were looking at it going, Ben better be the guy because Matt Canada ain't. And what's going to happen there? This is the first time where in the boom and bust conversation, you don't really have to lie to yourself. Like boom or bust is a real outcome for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I agree. I think that's a better place to be than trying to talk yourself into bigger things when bigger things aren't realistically going to happen. Where here, I think it's a 50-50 split. Either this goes terribly wrong and the Steelers look awful, or it looks great and the Steelers look great and they've done some moves and Omar Khan's worth every single second or cent of his 3-year contract extension. I the outcome of this. And I think to me, the Pittsburgh Steelers they're not stale. This is not a stale football team for the first time in a long time. And that's exciting. That's exciting. If you're going to change expectations, that's the way to do it, is to make yourself not stale.
Yes.
And I think the outcome to that is, again, we have no idea, but it's definitely better. It's definitely, especially for you. You've been here and you've said this. You said a number of times the Steelers are not a Super Bowl team. The Steelers are not a Super Bowl team. To at least have anything can happen thought in the back of your head. That wasn't there a couple of days ago. That wasn't there.
No,
a couple of months ago. It's there now. It's definitely there now.
Truly. Yeah, it was never there for a moment in 2024. It was never there from January of 2025 until, the moment Aaron Rodgers signed. And now it certainly is percolating, that idea. I'd like to see more happen. Training camp's going to be very, very pivotal to sort of where I think this team can go and sort of what I think the ceiling of 2025 will be. But yeah, the excitement and optimism of just like being a somewhat more legitimate team is miles better than what they were doing last year. And might I pose that, like, as we're talking about this, the kind of idea of this going terribly wrong, doesn't sound like the worst outcome to me either.
No.
If it guarantees, as we've kind of talked about and mentioned before, if it guarantees that you get that top 5, top 10 pick, then there are worse things. Not the worst, exactly. There are worse things.
Yeah, I agree. If the Steelers, if it is bust, all right, well, we'll see what happens. But I agree with you. I feel a lot better sitting here today. Not about the outcome, just about the possibilities of the 2025 season, and that's exciting, dude. The Steelers are an exciting football team. Where we sit today, it's cool. It's definitely much cooler than years past. All right, let's pivot. The other question, second question here on this 4th of July, which I got to say, dude, Marlon Lewis coming up with a banger as two gridiron gains also. I apologize. Marlon in the comments early. Should have been a Ben Roethlisberger with a Ben Franklin wig on. I'm going to be honest. If anything's ever going to replace the Ben Drankin, it's the Ben Drankin with Ben Roethlisberger. That's a good one. That's a good one. Gridiron here with the biggest reminder of today. Okay. Good morning, guys. Happy 4th. Be responsible and safe and throw it in Terry! Greatest video of all time. And it's the first thing I watched today. It's the first. There are two traditions in the Strackbine household that I have now forced my wife to become part of. It's the throw it in reverse Terry video, which starts every morning. I watched that thing at 5:35 this morning. That's when I turned that video on this morning. And 2 is the hot dog eating contest, which starts at noon, I believe. And are you a hot dog eating contest guy?
Dude, I can't watch that. It makes me sick. It makes me nauseous.
It is. It does. It makes you feel like you're going to throw up the whole time. There's nothing that's more brutal for your stomach than watching this. It's my favorite sporting event of the year. Like it is. I am so fired up for it.
I'm very excited for you, and I don't mean to poo-poo your excitement at all. It's just when I watch it, it makes me feel ill. It's like I can't do it. But I like to hear the number of hot dogs consumed by the winner each year, because I'm always just like, okay, how many months would it take me of just like normally eating hot dogs like a normal human might?
Like a normal human. Do you watch the so I go, do you watch the lemonade chugging contest afterwards?
No,
I go,
dude, you're locked in. Is this all on ESPN 8 the Ocho?
It's just on regular ESPN, I think, maybe ESPN2. Then it's the cornhole tournament. I'm an all-day 4th of July sports guy. I'm an all-day tournament. It doesn't leave me. And then from there it'll go Yankees Mets, because that's just a good game. But Joey Chestnut is, if you ask me who's my favorite sports player of all time, sports figure, it goes LeBron James, which is tough because LeBron James is losing it. He's kind of getting soft in his old age. And then it's Joey Chestnut. And there is a significant gap between number 3. There's a significant. Allen Iverson is up there as a number 3. But like, again, dude, Joey Chestnut might climb his way into the 4th. So shout out to everybody who suffers through it. I make my wife suffer through it. She wants to throw up the whole time, but it's a good time. It's a good time. All right, let's answer the second part of this question. The Steelers have done so much. Surprise is inevitable, I guess, at this point. Like, you just never know what's coming. So what is coming next? That's the question. It has been an offseason full of, you have no idea what turn the Steelers are going to make. I have a hard time believing that they're done, that this is it, that they've filled it and they're ready to go and move on. So I'll ask, what's the next move for the Pittsburgh Steelers? What's the next surprise in your head that they make? The next, I should word it as in the next moment that I'm running back into this office to write something because you and or Jack have texted me that something crazy has happened as I walk downstairs.
Yeah, I think I have to step outside of myself a bit here, because I've been the skeptic this entire offseason. But I think that there are 2 scenarios that jump out to me as maybe those exact sort of situations where we'd have to scramble back to get the news out.
Yes.
One is maybe obvious, and I'll start with that one, and it is that they pull off another blockbuster trade for a wide receiver, and it is a player that we have talked about here, and it is a player that we have gushed over, and it is for New Orleans Saints wide receiver Chris Olave. I think that would be the sort of groundbreaking, hard-hitting story that could shock us. But at this point, we've been learning and getting all this information to tell us that this is a different offseason altogether. So expect the unexpected. I think that's number 1, maybe the more realistic option. Number 2, and this is purely conjecture, purely just a thought that occurred to me this morning while, thinking over what you wanted to talk about today.
Cool.
What if they traded Pat Freiermuth?
What would it take? What would it take?
I think maybe less than what I would want and what I would project his value to be. Because I think there's a possibility in my crazy conspiracy theory seeking mind that the acquisition of Jonnu Smith could make him expendable one way or the other. I don't agree with it. I think it would be very counter to what the goal of the offense is, especially with Arthur Smith's, sort of fixation with tight ends that are athletic and mobile.
I agree.
That being said, I don't understand sort of what players do for the mind of Omar Khan, for the mind of management, it seems like where I find strength in numbers could mean someone is expendable. I think positions of need are not sort of where the Steelers always feel their positions of need are. So, we clearly don't see things together. That's why I'm not on their payroll. But I could see a world, a crazy one, I will also add, where Pat Fryermuth gets traded and we're like, what the hell is going on this summer? We got to get back to the keyboard ASAP.
The Pat trade would be nuts. Would
It
I
would.
rule it out? Definitely not. I haven't heard anything. I don't think you slamming a Diet Coke at 9:23 in the morning.
Yeah, you can't shame me for, the lemonade chugger watcher for slamming a DC at 9 a.m. Let the man do what he's got to do to get through the day. This is America.
Freedom
Yeah,
rings,
no, I am
brother.
having a Diet Coke. It's I don't drink coffee, so I get my caffeine through like soda or energy drinks in the morning. So
that was just the last thing I expected you to pick up. Was not it clicked in my head as you picked up. I was like, it's not even 10 a.m. yet. It's not even 9:30 yet. There's people sleeping.
Is that worse than someone grabbing a beer at 9:24 in the morning?
On the 4th of July? No.
Okay,
On a normal day,
maybe.
No.
Okay, good.
On the 4th of July, yes. On the 4th of July, yes. If you grabbed a beer at 9:23 in the morning on the 4th of July, I'm hoping at least you're going to go start setting up for the party or something.
Yeah, I'm cool with it on 4th of July for sure.
Productive
Yeah, no worries.
beer. That's what you call it. A productive beer.
Mm-hmm.
If this was a normal Friday, yeah, issue. That's somebody needs to, phone calls need to be made. It still got me. I'm not going to judge. I still have, we're entering day 4 of this Ghost energy drink.
So
and
gross,
there's a
dude.
chance it gets drank today. There's a chance that sip or two goes down, just a little pick me up. The non-coffee thing. All right, I understand. Pat Fryermuth. I'm sorry. It got me. Pat Fryermuth. I look, it would be stunning. It doesn't make sense for the Steelers to trade Pat Fryermuth, but nothing they've done this offseason has had the clear cut, like, this makes sense. It's all like there's an argument for it. There's an argument against it. There's an argument for it. There's an argument against it. And that's Jonnu Smith. I will say I'd be very disappointed. Very disappointed. If the Pittsburgh Steelers have put so much time and effort into this offseason and have kept and walked the line so successfully of prepare for the future while also go all in right now. And I'm telling, it's successful the way they've done it. Like, you traded Minka for 2 guys that are going to be here for the same amount of time that Minka would be. You went out and you got young in a lot of places. Like, it's now and later, and I like it. You get rid of Pat makes no sense. Like, you got rid of Pat for a dude 4 years older, who is on a 1-year deal. Like, that would blow my mind. It would be the first move that they made that I'd say, you are now just solely all in, and it does not make sense how all in you are for 2025. Mine sit on somewhat of the same wavelength here. I got 2 names that I think could be surprise trades as we head into the back half of the summer here before training camp. The first one's a tight end. He's Darnell Washington. If teams are calling, if the Steelers are calling and saying, hey, we're looking to make a move, who could we add to a trade package? You're not getting much, if anything, for Connor Hayward. If teams are even willing to accept a trade or talk a trade, I don't think you're going to get much. Darnell, you're getting something. I don't see Darnell here long-term. I don't see Darnell here as a guy that signs a second contract unless it's super cheap. I could see him getting a 1-year deal after this one to just kind of stick around, but that's all I would guess. I could see Darnell's name coming up in some trade packages and the Steelers saying, all right, yeah, that makes some sense. We have 2 tight ends. Connor Hayward could be a third. Maybe we keep DJ Thomas Jones and we feel pretty okay about it. The second one is, and this sucks, but the second one's Calvin Austin. Because if you're going all in for a wide receiver, if the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking at it and saying, we need a wide out, Calvin's good trade bait to use in the trade for that. And if you have expectations for Roman, you're okay moving on from Calvin, who's on the last year of his deal. I mean, I don't know if or is going to be next year will be the last year of his deal. But anyways, I don't know if Calvin is a guy that they've had any conversations about, but I don't trust the whole Zach Azzani saying wide receiver 2 thing, because Zach Azzani is a wide receivers coach. He's not Mike Tomlin. He's not Omar Khan. He didn't find out DK Metcalf was coming until the trade was made, just like the rest of us. I could see it and say, if the Steelers find themselves in a situation where the Saints, where the Commanders, where the Packers are saying, yeah, we're this close, but you got to toss us a wideout too, Calvin's the name that comes up. I could see Roman, but I think Roman be a bigger stretch to put on this list. Calvin feels a little bit more realistic to me.
That hurts my heart, truly. I think I would be more shocked about Calvin Austin being dealt, or really just any wide receiver being dealt at this point of the summer, because I just think they want to add to it. So I would be shocked if they, took from it in order to complete a trade or add anybody of significance. But yeah, I mean, yes, I think you and I are kind of locked in on this idea of like going all in could sort of push the Steelers to make some deals that might like really not go well for them, or it could put them to, they could get really overzealous and then sort of like be willing to give up on a Calvin Austin or part with a Pat Fryermuth, for example, for a trade that might be better for a month of the 2025 season, but would just really defeat the entire purpose of like the long-term outlook of this team. So I would hate to see Calvin Austin go as well, or really, I think I would be more comfortable with Roman Wilson if I had to pick one younger receiver to part with. But I mean,
yeah,
that's an awful pick as well, because you've seen nothing from him on the field. He could be a very special player once the pads come on and he's, productive and healthy. So man, all stunning, all stumping me, all making me feel like, yeah, we would be scrambling back and being like, we got to get this out ASAP. No one talked about this. No one saw this coming. Why are they doing this?
Would you trade Calvin Austin for Chris Olave and a 3rd round pick?
Yes. Yeah, I would, because I think that is a trade where you are not just getting a player for the 2025 season, and you are getting him for at least 2026, and then you can hope that some sort of negotiation for an extension goes well, and then you can go from there. But I mean, if you're telling me you get 2 seasons of a player with a proven track record and skill set of a Chris Olave for Calvin Austin, who I believe has a career high of less than 600 yards receiving, and a 3rd round pick, I think that's a really good deal for the Steelers, who are looking towards the future, but also trying to win as many games as possible in 2025.
I agree, man. And it would suck. There's nobody, I mean, friend of the show, man, Calvin Austin. There's nobody I enjoy seeing in the locker room more. There's nobody I enjoy chatting up in the locker room more than Calvin Austin. But man, I think if it, like, everything's on the table. Let's just be real with the situation. Everything is on the table for 2025 in the summer, and where it goes, who knows? All right, that's everything on our agenda on this happy 4th of July. One more shout out to the thing. Make sure that you guys are entering medium. You got to be a medium fitter. I'm not a medium fitter. I'm an XL in this guy. I like them loose though. You know what I mean? Give me a little room for these tight shoulders.
Room to do a shuttle run.
I'll blow some out in a medium, dude. I'll rip that on hole 1. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to start answering all your questions. So toss them in the chat. With that said, we will be right back.
Pittsburgh, this one's for you. From the voices behind all Steelers talk comes Black and Gold apparel, your go-to for bold, fan-driven merch that reps the city, the Steelers, and everything in between. Whether you bleed black and gold or just love that Pittsburgh grit, we've got something for you. It's more than a podcast. It's a community. And thanks to your support, we're proud to bring the passion from our mics to your closets. Gear up, stand out, and show the world what real fans look like. Shop now at blackandgoldapparel.myshopify.com.
All righty. Shout out to our members. Shout out to our super chatters. Toss your questions in the chat. I know it's early. I know it's the 4th of July. We appreciate everybody who's here and sticking around with us as we explore all the possibilities of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Want to start with good old Eddie the First. Happy 4th, boys. Noah, when the season kicks off, I can only imagine you'll be flooded with calls for the call-in show. Any chance Jacob joins you for those? There's a possibility for sure. There's a lot of for one, I think Jacob would kill me because I'm so sporadic with when I record those. It's either 7 in the morning or like 10:30 in the afternoon or in the morning. It could happen at any moment. It's just whenever I'm sitting there going, all right, I've had enough coffee, we're ready to go. We do have some stuff in the works towards the season, some expansion stuff when it comes to the podcast. There's a good opportunity to do a little bit more, obviously, as always, and I think we got enough hands to get some stuff rolling. So excited, early stuff, but you know what I'm saying? It's up to something season, and we got in the words of Pat McAfee, and we got some exciting stuff. We also got something that's in the works for next summer that I think you guys are gonna be pretty excited about, and it'll come soon. So keep your eyes peeled. Eddie's got another one here, which is awesome. Thanks to the show for the measurement boatload has entered my vocabulary. My wife thanks you as well. Appreciate you, Eddie the First. I hope your wife is look at dude. A boatload of stuff is that's a lot of stuff, man.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of stuff. It's a boat.
That's a metric system unit of measurement right there. A boatload, just under a ton.
Boat. As they say. Ryan Smith here. Happy 4th of July to my neighbors from the South. I know everyone's mentioned Manning and Sellers, but I've heard surprisingly little on Clint Klubnik as an option. Your thoughts? I'm actually a big Klubnik guy.
Really?
I think he's in that mix of the top 5, top 6 to me. I think he's going to continue to climb up. He's one of those names that you're going to get the Mendoza, you're going to get the Klubnik, you're going to get the Sellers, you're going to get the Neusmeyer. I think Nico, whatever his name is at UCLA now, is off the table. I don't think he's gonna be a guy that I until we see what happens. I think teams are skeptical of that whole situation. But those would be the guys that I think climb their way into the mix of the Drew Aller, the Arch Mannings as we get closer. I like Klubnik. I think he's got some versatility for sure. I think everybody in this draft class has some ability to move around, but I think he's got a decent arm. And more importantly, like I say this all the time, it doesn't matter how good you are in college. It's about how good you look and your traits. Josh Allen is a prime example of this one. Patrick Mahomes, super average college quarterback, pretty unbelievable in the NFL. That's just what happens. And I think Klubnik has the arm strength, the accuracy, the building blocks for an NFL team to go, that guy's probably pretty good. You got thoughts on him?
Yeah, he's just outside of like my top like 3 or 4 sort of quarterbacks for 2026. I like him. I want to see. I haven't kept any tabs on him over the summer, but I kind of wanted to see him get a little bit like add some muscle or something because he is, I think, like 6'1" or 6'2". I forget what he's listed at.
Yeah,
but
he's a little shorter.
Yeah, I watched him. I watched the Clemson versus Pitt game last year. And, watched him break off that like game-winning rushing touchdown. I think, and he looked pretty explosively athletic there. I have some questions about how good his arm strength is still. So I have a couple questions on Klubnik, but I think he's someone to definitely keep an eye on. And I like a lot of, he's decisive. He's a winner for sure. He's definitely got that drive to be like a leader of a quarterback. So there's just a couple things I want to check in on and see throughout this upcoming season, but he could be a pretty fast and steady riser once the season actually begins, because I do agree with you, Ryan. He has been someone that's kind of fallen to the wayside a little bit in terms of 2026 quarterback prospects. So yeah, definitely someone to keep monitoring.
I agree. I think the size, it's just a tough, like, again, like that's in certain quarterback classes, you don't care about that stuff this is a prime example of that. Like Dylan Gabriel's about 4'10", and he went before Shedeur Sanders. He is. Let's be really. That guy is short. That guy's so short.
That guy's
And
3'4".
he is. He's Russell Wilson size. Okay. He's Russ. And I met Russ. Russ is not, you could say he's 6 foot. You could say he's 5'10". I'm 5'7". Okay. I'm 5'7", 3/4. If I put shoes on, I'm 5'8". I feel pretty tall sometimes. I'm 5'7". Russ and me stared at each. We were eye to eye, dude. Sometimes I felt like I was looking down a little bit. Sometimes I was like, I'm definitely taller than you. I'm definitely a little bit taller than you. That's Dylan Gabriel's the same way. Like,
damn,
the same way. And I think in some quarterback classes, you care about the size because the talent is so good in the class that you have to take the smaller things into consideration. I think this could be one of those draft classes. Jonathan here, do the coaches go against the salary cap hit because Khan got a 3-year extension? No, the coaches, GMs, anything outside of that goes strictly into the team's budget. It's like a whole other situation. It comes pretty much straight out of Art Rooney's pocket. It says, here you go. That's why when teams are like the Carolina Panthers are paying like 4 head coaches, you know, David Teller is that's his name, right? I believe it is Tepper. Thank you. As it came out, I was like, that's not correct. David Tepper is such a billionaire that he could afford these things and 0 questions asked. He's like, yeah, I'll pay 4 coaches $15 million a year to do nothing for me. That sounds great. Steelers are a little bit more, you know, that's why they ride the wave and like don't fire guys. And when they do fire guys, they just replace them from within, is because you got to pay for those things. And the Steelers they're not going to pay for those things. So yeah, it comes straight out of like the team overall budget, overall salary, profit, that kind of stuff. It doesn't affect salary cap at all. Jacob Kennedy here. If the Steelers can bring in another safety, say like a Jordan Whitehead talent or better, then swing tackle depth. I think Omar had an A+ offseason. A wide receiver is great, but safety and tackle are more important. Do you agree that a safety and a tackle right now are more important for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
No, not fully. I think they are positions of need for sure. I think secondary, I'm with you a little bit more so on that. But I think having another tackle is not the most important thing. It is a problem if you know, Dylan Cook or Calvin Anderson either get hurt or don't show you anything of value. It's a huge concern if Broderick Jones lays a stinker on the field once training camp begins. But right now, I would still argue that improving the offense will give this team the best chance to go further in the postseason, and that will be adding a wide receiver. I think they also need to bring in someone like, I would love to see them bring in Jordan Whitehead, just out of like a hometown bias. But yeah, I don't think that I agree fully that safety and tackle are the more pressing needs for the Steelers right now.
Yeah. It just depends on who they are in my head. If you're going to go out and get anybody safety and he's just going to be like a safety 3, okay. You know, it's a good move, but I don't think I want to, at that point, like, maybe Jalen is a guy that actually works out in the safety. If you're going to go out and get a quality swing tackle, okay, cool. But there aren't really any out there to go and get. And I think that makes it a little concerning. So I think it depends on player. I don't think it's necessarily like the big need. I think all of them are pretty even. It's more so, you know, what's the quality of the guy you're going to get? Because right now you could get a better safety than you can a wide receiver or a tackle. And in that case, cool. Go get the safety and then work your way down. If you could get a tackle after that for the highest quality, great. Go there and then wide receiver. But I think this year especially, and where they stand, the things they've done, it's just about what's the best talent you could add at the positions of need. And I think safety right now tops that list. And then you could kind of go from there, which brings up this question. What safety should we target? If you had to pick one today, okay, and everything was on the table, we're talking money, role, the whole 9, who's the first and the second safety? Because I think I know your answer. Who's your first and second safety you'd be adding to the room?
And just to clarify, this is only free agents or trades?
Only free
Only
agents.
free
You
agents.
could go trades, but I mean that
No,
would be wild.
I won't get too wild.
Yeah, that'd be
I think
nuts.
Justin Simmons is the slam dunk answer here. He would be the easiest person to slot into the starting safety position. He would give you probably the most productivity from that position. He would be someone that Tomlin and the entire staff and roster would gain trust for very easily. This is a proven veteran and all-pro safety, a player who went to another organization in 2024 in the Atlanta Falcons and maintained a very solid level of production. So I think if they were to sign him, he would be one, pretty cheap. I don't think you would need to entice him financially to get him to come here. And two would be the best bang for your buck because of it. Secondly, after that, I think would be Jordan Whitehead, but I think the sort of the list expands behind Justin Simmons. I think then beyond him, you're sort of taking this gamble of, well, he could be a starter, probably is the safety 3. Jordan Whitehead et al. Kind of fall under that category for me.
Yeah, Justin Simmons to me is number 1 again with these. Like, there's nobody that steps in as a starter as easily. There's nobody that you have less to worry about than Justin Simmons. 2 interceptions last season, I believe. 80 some tackles. Like, guys still got it. He's still very much so there. And then I think my number 2 is Julian Blackmon. I think if he's healthy, he's a guy that is a starter in the NFL, and he's only 26 years old. He's proven it time and time again. He's coming off his best 2 seasons, dealing with an oblique injury. I get it. Concerning. If he's not healthy, you can't sign him. If he is healthy, yeah, I like the move, and I think it adds up. It comes with questions, is he going to be good? But Jordan Whitehead comes with questions. Marcus Williams comes with massive questions. Like, are these guys going to be good still or at the end of the career? And I think Julian Blackmon's a guy that at least has a little bit more upside in my eyes than any of them, Justin Simmons included. But again, it depends on health. Ronald, if TJ demands a trade, would you take Terry McLaurin and a 2026 first round pick? I wouldn't. I don't think they'd get that. I think TJ's invaluable. Like, I really like I know people want to argue against me and say these things, but like, if you're trying to win a Super Bowl in 2025, trading TJ Watt is the dumbest thing you could do. It's just stupid. Like, there are no other words to describe it except for you've just made a colossal mistake for this season. Now, if you want to look ahead, there's arguments to be made, but the Steelers have done it. You didn't sign Aaron Rodgers and go make all these moves to say we're worried about next year. You're not. You're worried about right now. And if you're worried about right now, TJ Watt should be on your roster.
Yeah. I mean, look, to answer Ronald's question, like, just to live in that hypothetical for a second, if TJ is demanding this trade, no contract to be had in Pittsburgh, and the Commanders would like to part with Scary Terry and a 2026 first round pick, yeah, absolutely, you'd have to take that deal because the Steelers are, their backs are up against a wall. They have no leverage, really. They'd have no other choice but to part with him. So, yeah, if they could get that much value back for him, absolutely, you'd have to do it in that scenario. But I do overwhelmingly agree with Noah that won't happen. I don't foresee TJ Watt demanding a trade out of Pittsburgh. And two, if that does become publicly known, or at least known around the NFL, there will be no offer that high of value for TJ Watt. If they know he's demanding a trade, they would be like, hey, how about a 4th round pick, you stupid idiot? And then they would just have no, because Omar Khan would have to be like, man, I actually have to negotiate off of this because they know that TJ Watt's leaving. So if you're in that situation, they're screwed. I am just hoping, praying that we don't get there.
I agree. I certainly agree. Watch you down. Conspiracy theory. Watt's extension is being dragged out through training camp to keep Watt fresher for the season. I don't know. My thing there is he would show up. He'd be working on the side somewhere. He'd be doing something. you know, that's where and I love a good conspiracy theory, but to me, that's where it would end. To me, that's
Here's
good.
well, Noah, wait. Um, as we all know, TJ Watt is a new dad. He's working on that dad strength.
True.
So
Very true.
the only like real scenario that I could foresee is like he's like, hey, I actually don't want to deal with contract negotiations because my child was just born. These first few months are very important to my wife and I, and I'm just not concerned about business right now. So like if that is the perspective that one TJ Watt has, then yeah, maybe, you know, he's going to stay fresher as a byproduct because they're just not engaging in these negotiations. And I wouldn't be surprised if someone wanted to put their family first and just like not deal with business for a while. So I could, you know, again, am I a conspiracy theorist, supporter, and encourager? Yeah, I love it. Keep the crazy going.
I
But
agree.
I could maybe see a kernel of truth in that.
Maybe a kernel. Maybe a kernel. I
Thanks.
love it. I love it. I don't think that's the case just because TJ's been a little bit aggressive through
Mhm.
all this. And I was there for the last time. Like I was the guy hyping up. People wanted to like make a big deal about TJ Watt holding in. I was like, dude, this guy's working harder than anybody on the field. He's just on the side. Maybe. If it's the truth though, shout out to Mike Tomlin, man. He's always playing games, brother. Mike Tomlin's always playing games. Slim, you need some tall merch. I'm 6'6", bro. It's hard to find. It's harder to find. Working on that, working on the golf polo, got a couple of things for sure. It's I'm gonna be honest though, it's tough to get some big and tall stuff. You know, for the biggest thing is reasonably priced. Like I'm not putting a big and tall shirt out there for somebody to spend $60 on a t-shirt. That's ridiculous. So I am definitely working on it. It's just a matter of making sure it's high quality and affordable for people because that's, you know, that's so not. And I don't know if anybody like works in the t-shirt game at all, but shipping prices are ridiculous. And we do free shipping on everything because I'm not making anybody. If Amazon doesn't make me pay for shipping, you're not paying for shipping. That's just how it works. So working on figuring it all out, but I appreciate you. 6'6", my friend. You're like a foot taller than Dylan Gabriel. Like a foot and a half.
You're like 3 feet taller than the Cleveland Browns starting quarterback, bro. That's crazy.
They're crazy. Tyreek Hill and Mute for Calvin or Tyreek Hill for Mute and Calvin Austin. Would you do it?
No, I wouldn't. And this is because I don't want Tyreek Hill on the Steelers. And that's not Steelers going all in. I concede that might be something that happens in this crazy alternate reality we're living in that is the Steelers off season. But no, I don't think Tyreek Hill is worth giving up, you know, your still top tight end and your wide receiver too.
And your wide receiver too. I agree. I like Tyreek Hill as a player. I think he's past his prime. And I think at this point, you know, you're trading for a guy that at any moment could walk away and go race I show speed, you know, and just call that a career. But I just don't think I would be the guy that I would be the team that's given up a lot for Tyreek Hill. He's just a little bit too far gone in my eyes. Slim here. Hey, Noah, do you think Caleb Johnson can get close to 1,000 yards this season? Najee did it in his first 4 years. I hope so. I don't know what the split's going to be. I would imagine Caleb Johnson becomes the true running back one at some point, but I also think it's going to be a really close, even split between him and Jalen even after that happens. That's the Steelers' plan, is to get these guys going together, and I think that takes away from them. But I do think if either of the running backs has an opportunity to hit 1,000 yards this season, I'd put my money on Caleb Johnson.
Yeah, I expect big things from him, and I expect him to be the most impressive running back when the season's all said and done. But I just don't anticipate Jalen Warren giving up touches easily or sort of falling by the wayside. So I think he can get close. I think he's in a very different situation than Najee Harris was in his first year. Like the entire goal and plan of the rushing offense when Najee was a rookie was just basically feeding him and making him figure it out at the line of scrimmage. I think the plan will be a little different here for Caleb Johnson, and he's going to have to fight with Jalen Warren to get those touches to earn those extra snaps. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's closer to, like, say, anywhere between 600 to 850 rushing yards too, but it's still a meaningful part of the offense. So don't have the same expectations I had for Najee as a rookie, but I think he's going to still be a very impactful player.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that the offense was like almost just Najee. His rookie year, it was like, is that a mini can of Diet Pepsi, by the way? Diet Coke? Full can.
No,
okay. I'm not gonna lie, I hate the mini cans. Hate the mini cans. Just drink a full Pepsi, man.
Yeah, it's a full guy.
It's a full guy. I think that Najee it was a lot of Ben, but it was a lot of running. It was a lot of Ben's getting smoked back here. You got to run the football 400 times. And they did run the football 400 times to get 1,000 yards. So it's I don't think he's got Najee rookie upside, but I also think he's a better player than Najee. So I think long-term upside is definitely higher. Ham sandwich here. The picnic pack is fantastic. If TJ gets moved, could the Steelers pursue Trey Hendrickson? What would the contract Trey would demand? They could pursue. Look at it. We've talked about this on the show. I've had it mentioned to me since like week 10 of the season that the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson are in a bad spot, and Trey Hendrickson really respects the Steelers. The Steelers really respect Trey. Watch for it. And I said, that's effing nuts. Like, what are we, how would they even possibly pull that off? If they did, which if they traded TJ, yes, the opportunity's there. I agree. But he's going to want the same contract, because the second TJ gets paid $40 million a year, Trey's going to go, I had better numbers than him. I played more games than him, and I'm 2 months older than him, which means we're the same age. So why am I not getting $40 million a year? So I think it's going to be the same price, which concerns me, definitely. But I don't think it I think you're in almost the same situation with a guy that's had better numbers the last 2 seasons. You got to argue that one, and has been more durable. But I don't think it changes your financial status. I think he's still looking for the same deal.
100%. Yeah, you basically would be swapping in the same sort of contract negotiation issues. Just the name on the other end of the deal is basically all you would be changing if you were to go get Trey Hendrickson and try to engage in these contract extension talks as well. I like Trey Hendrickson a lot. Would love to have him on the Steelers in a perfect world. I think he is a very quality edge rusher. I imagine the Steelers did not enjoy facing him twice a year and don't want to face him 2 more times in 2025 if they can avoid it. That being said, yeah, there's not a really huge difference. Maybe he's more eager to sign with the Steelers because he does respect the organization and is so fed up with the Bengals, but that still wouldn't be enough to get a discount off of the, $35-40 million a year price tag that it is now on quality and top tier edge rushers. So, you can't really get out of it, I think is what I'm saying. The Steelers are going to have to pony up and pay a lot of money for a top tier edge rusher if they want one on their roster.
I agree. Mike Lang here. 1, is there any way the recent trade could have happened without giving up Minka? Good question. 2, can this team right now be a top 3 team in the AFC come playoff time? I don't. What would you expect the trade to be if the Steelers didn't give up Minka and ended up with Jonnu Smith and Jalen Ramsey?
It would have had to have been like at least a second round draft pick and maybe some other roster player with upside. But I don't know who that player would have been off the cuff. And I think maybe that's probably how negotiations might have gone between the Dolphins and the Steelers, where they probably wanted a higher draft pick. Could not get the Steelers to budge on that because their 2026 plans are locked in place and you cannot get them to shake on that. But I think Minka became the only piece that made sense in these trade negotiations because of the high salary and sort of the quote unquote dip in production that they've seen and were fed up with over the last couple of seasons. So to get both Jonnu Smith and Jalen Ramsey back in return, I don't think that there was really another way unless it would have included a package of draft picks or a younger player like I don't know, I'm just going to throw a name out there, like a Nick Herbig or something like that. Someone
Ooh.
who's younger, has some contractual control, but is not in a position to get a huge pay increase for their next contract. So it would have had to have been something like that, which the Steelers are obviously not willing to do right now, even in all-in mode. So I think Minka was the only way, the more you sort of break this down and look into other trade options and scenarios.
I, for one, don't think they could have afforded it because Jalen's expensive and so is Minka. So I think that would shut it down. You'd have to come up with the salary cap space somehow. I don't think they'd be able to. And I think you'd be paying more. Like Minka's a high quality asset to send away.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be giving up more than Minka. You'd be giving up second round, third round pick plus some. You gave up Minka in a fifth for these two guys. Like you're adding at least a second, maybe a third into this mix. I just think Minka's worth honestly less than that. I think you could lose Minka and it equals a value less than your second round pick in 2026. So I don't think it could. I honestly don't think it could. Two, can this team right now be a top 3 team in the AFC come playoff time? I think my answer is yes.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to beat the Ravens. That's your 2, or that's your 3. But I think they could be. I think the Steelers have a better opportunity to do something this season if everything clicks than Houston, Denver, LA, the Jets, Miami. I think we're out of good teams. I think the Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Everyone
sans Kansas City and Buffalo. I think the Steelers have a shot or a better chance than they did in 2024 to be better than. I think they could be the best team in the AFC North. I'm not predicting it quite yet in July of 2025, but I think they certainly can be the top team in the AFC North. And if they show dominance there, then yeah, you're really only other giants you're trying to overcome at that point are the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. So yeah, it's certainly possible. I don't know if I'd book it today, again, in the middle of July or the beginning of July, but it is more within reach than it has been in a pretty long time for the Steelers, realistically.
Yeah, I agree. I think the moves they've made puts them in a place where if it all clicks, which if it doesn't click, they're screwed. But if it all clicks, they could be in a pretty good spot. They could be in a pretty good spot. John P here. If TJ doesn't get a deal, do you think he plays week 1? Is it possible they put him on a tag next season? I think both of these things are possible. I have a hard time saying TJ is going to hold out into the season. Things could change, but that's a wild thing to do. And 2, yes, I think that if they don't get a deal done right now, a tag is very much so on the table next offseason, which would piss TJ off even more, but makes a lot of sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. A lot of sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I would say both of these things are on the table. Yeah, I don't expect TJ to hold out into week 1 unless you feel different.
I just think that there is no sort of end in sight today, July 4th, to this contract negotiation. Like, we all expect it to get done, but it is a question of when. And I think that it could drag on. We didn't think it would drag on this long, and we didn't think it would drag on, a year after TJ Watt made it known that he would like to have a contract extension done. We didn't think it would drag on after this offseason sort of commence, but here we are sort of still waiting for this contract to get done. So I think that makes the possibility of him not playing week 1 not a guarantee, but you have to respect the possibility at this point. And I think if they put the franchise tag on him, which is probably a possibility, again, I voiced this before, I think that would just be such an awful move by the Steelers to do that, but they would be well within their organizational rights to do so.
I agree. I definitely agree. All right, Eddie the First here. Any chance they move Jonnu Smith to wide receiver? Tight end room is pretty crowded.
No, I don't buy that. Did not buy that when they said it. Like, I think he is a tight end. Maybe you can, put him in the fullback position to do some creative things with him, but there is nothing about him that I see as a true wide receiver. Maybe you can just line him up in the slot or like kick him out wide, but that alone does not a wide receiver make. Do you feel differently?
No, I think they're going to test him in the slot. I think they're going to use him there, but I think they're going to realize that Roman's a slot guy, Calvin's a slot guy. Like they don't necessarily need, more slot guys. They could use Jonnu. I think him and Pat are going to be used a little bit everywhere, but I'm not totally convinced that, things are going to go and Jonnu's going to become a full-time wide receiver. Like, I just don't think that's on the mind of everybody. And we'll finish it off with a couple. I do want to address these just really fast. Ham sandwich. What's the cap situation as of now after the Minka trade? I'm not totally sure. I'm still waiting on numbers to be finalized. I think the Steelers are looking at, before the TJ deal, about like, I want to say $8 million salary cap without Minka. And then once TJ comes in, things could be different. It's about 12. It's about $12 million as of right now, according to Over the Cap. I think that's going to change over the next couple of days. And then two more. Richard here. Noah must have missed the reveal episode, but did your wife convince you that you need to step up the backdrop? No, to be honest, I was so tired of sitting in a corner. My office was set up to where my desk was in a corner. Like, I was essentially in a cave, and it was so dark and gloomy in here. I just couldn't do anything. I got one window to work with. I needed a little light. So we decided to move it up, but I'm glad everybody likes it. And we'll finish it with Borat here. Who do you think would put us over the edge? What do you think would put us over the edge and into the Super Bowl conversation?
I think you got to sign Justin Simmons. And I think you have to improve your wide receiver 2 situation still. And I think if you do that, and if you legitimize the wide receiver 2 position, or, solidify it by Calvin Austin being your breakout star, you are in contention for a Super Bowl for sure, because all of the pieces are in place, and then it just has to come together from there. So yeah, you get a safety that you trust, you get a wide receiver 2 that you trust, bingo, bango, Super Bowl contenders.
I like it. I definitely like it. I think I'm pretty much in agreement there. You sign TJ Watt so that you end that conversation, and then from there it's just go get the missing pieces, and the missing pieces right now are a wide receiver and a safety. I agree with that. 100%. All right. With that said, guys, we're heading out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. Happy 4th of July to everybody out there. Once again, I want to give a shout out to all of our veterans and all of our active military. Can't thank you guys enough for everything that you do. And one more time, go to the social links, go to our community page on YouTube, enter for a chance to win the Chubby's golf shirt, and we'll probably toss a t-shirt out there, maybe 2 as well. Appreciate you guys as always. Enjoy a good holiday, everybody. Stay safe out there, and we will be back on Monday. Enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.